Hello and welcome to this video and to November's book review. I was definitely going to say December then. My apologies, if you saw our Filey video, holiday, whatever it is, holiday video, that's probably what I meant to say. This bodes well, doesn't it? You'll know that we all got sick and I now have a cough, so hopefully we can get through this without me coughing and spluttering too much. Because there's quite a few books to get through for November as well, because I went on a little audio stint. So without further ado, let's get into it and go through the books I read in November. So the first one actually was an audio book, and that is The Measure by Nikki Erlick. Again, as I've just mentioned, I listened to it in audio and it was narrated by Julia Whalen, I think is how you pronounce it. And I gave this book 5 stars. Can you believe it? I've actually given a book 5 stars. In this one we are following quite a few characters, it has to be said, and there are chapters from a lot of people. If you are over the age of 18, you were given a box, and in that box was a piece of string, and the length of that string determines how long you're going to live. So obviously there becomes this whole societal thing around being a short stringer and what you can and can't do, and it's sort of society's fallout to that. And I found it really, really interesting. It was quite thought-provoking in, you know, would I actually look at my box? How would I react to it? How would I react to what's going on in the world with it? But also it's just done very well. As I said, there are a lot of characters and I really liked most of them. It did take a little bit of time to decipher who was who, because we also only had one narrator, so she had to do everybody and it wasn't always completely distinctive who each of her characters were, but that didn't really affect me too much. And also I really liked how, as we went through the book, we saw how they were all interconnected. So that ended up making a lot of sense, and it's always fun when that happens in a novel. It's also just, as I said, looking at the society fallout of it was like the main part for me. That's the bit I liked the best. It's sad what happened, but also very much how it would happen. I mean, there are very much things happening in the news now that are obviously not the same, but have the same kind of impact, and how the society is in the book is pretty much exactly how it is depicted in real life. So it's kind of sad really, isn't it? But also incredibly fascinating about how each person reacts and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I am so glad I picked it up on a whim just because it was available and it's a book that I'd heard of that I thought, oh, I'll give it a whirl. And I'm so glad I did, because I think it might be my favourite read of 2025, which also surprises me because it's an audiobook and typically I don't like those quite as much. But this one, highly, highly recommend. Kind of wish I had a copy for my shelves because I would love to read it again one day, like physically. That's The Measure by Nikki Erlick. Next will come as no surprise, because it is a Bridgerton, and this one is It's in His Kiss, which is book number 7, so this is Hyacinth's story. So we've leapfrogged Gregory to get Hyacinth, but that's partly because in society the females get married earlier. And I gave this one 4 stars, so this is the highest rated Bridgerton along with Eloise's story, and that is because Hyacinth and Eloise are quite similar in their personality, and I just find them fun, and how they come across. I just enjoy their personalities. It did feel a little bit like Julia Quinn had kind of run out of ideas when we got to this one, because we're going on some sort of dual quest. They're breaking into our male main character's like family home to try and uncover clues to find his dead grandma's jewels or something like that for the inheritance. It was a bit odd, but I quite enjoyed it. Gareth, that's his name, I'd forgotten it briefly. He might be my favourite male main character in these books. He's still flawed, there are still aspects of overprotection as there are in all of these novels, but I feel Julia Quinn has been slightly kinder to this one compared to the rest of the males in the series. As I said, Hyacinth is basically an extreme version of Eloise, which is fun. I do think Eloise's book pips this one slightly for me. There are other factors why that one is preferred to me as well. it was still enjoyable, and definitely my like second favourite in the series. These all do follow basically the same formula, but they are easy, they are enjoyable, and I've enjoyed my time going through the Bridgerton books. The only thing in this that didn't sit well with me is the seduction part. I'm not going to say any more than that. That I didn't like that very much, but hey, still 4 stars for It's In His Kiss by Julia Quinn. I then read my book club book for what is going to be December's discussion, so I've actually read it a bit too early, I think, because part of it I'm forgetting, and I've got my book club. Well, when you're seeing this, I had it on Monday. But this month was Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon, which is a Greek mythology. I don't know if it's a retelling or just a reimagining of something off the back of the, I want to say Trojan War, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I found the writing style a bit tricky to get into to begin with. I can't really pinpoint why, but I know I found it a bit difficult at the beginning just to get my head around the style of it. And I found that really it only gripped my attention in the last 100 pages. It's not very long. I don't think we even hit 300, maybe just over, but it was really only the last 100 pages that I found particularly interesting, because the first half they are trying to set up a play with the Athenians, who were basically prisoners of war kept in this quarry, and all of that part of them trying to get the funding, the props, the costumes, all of that I didn't particularly enjoy, but then when we got to the play and onwards I found it much more interesting. It does quite well at balancing like the utter bleakness of it, because it is a bleak book and there's a lot of death and a lot of just mankiness in it, but it balances it well with this sort of hope and love of the arts and all of this stuff as well. The balance there I think was done pretty well. I've never actually seen the TV show, but I feel like it has essences of plebs, is what I would imagine plebs is a bit like. So yeah, I'm going to struggle talking about this one in our next book club, because I don't remember it very well, which also warrants its 3-star rating. It is short, it's very unique, it's not something I've ever really read before. Even like I haven't read a lot of Greek, myth retellings, but none of them are done in this way. So yeah, strange one to try and review. I liked the fact that I've read it and I've given it a go, because it is unique and it is short, but it's not one that I've obviously remembered very well, considering I've remembered some of these books much better. But yeah, so yeah, Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. We then head into another audio book. So I listened to Emma by Jane Austen, because my library app has now suddenly added all of the Jane Austen things. I think it's because it's like her 250th birthday. Something's happening in December that's 250 years of Jane Austen. I didn't realise this until I went into the library the other day, but it does mean that they're now on my library app, so I listened to Emma. And this was narrated by Nadia May. I think it's quite an old version of it, but that doesn't matter because the story won't have changed. So this is one of those books on my Kindle that I would like to read, but know I'm never going to get to, basically. So having it on audio helped me a lot. I actually got very frustrated with the characters in this one. Emma is obviously high society, or higher society, and basically she just meddles in everybody's business and tries to matchmake, but does it really badly. And there are a couple of characters that just talk loads, and the narrator's choice for that just grated on me immensely. I found myself rolling my eyes a lot when those characters started talking. I have read Pride and Prejudice, that's the only other Jane Austen that I have read, and I didn't get confused with that despite the fact that they are all Miss Bennet. Whereas this one, where they were Miss this and Miss that and all different surnames and stuff, I got really confused about who was who and who was linked to who and what does that mean. It was much easier when they actually used their first names, but obviously that didn't happen very often because that's not what happened in society at that point. So I did find that more confusing this time round. Maybe it's because I listened to it rather than read it, I don't know, but yeah, a bit confusing. I feel like Emma was probably deliberately written to be a slightly irritating character, and a bit unlikable, and as I said, she sticks her nose in where it's not wanted and feels she knows best with everything. She does have a bit of character growth within the novel, not as much as maybe I would have liked, and it does all tie up very nicely in a bow at the end, and it is a bit abrupt, but because it's sort of a slice of life book, it's that period of time, I guess the ending's always going to be pretty abrupt. So yeah, it did make me kind of want to rewatch Clueless though, because I know there are elements of that based on this book. So yeah, glad I've actually got to Emma. I'm planning on doing the rest of the Jane Austen audiobooks at some point. I don't know when I'm going to start that, but I think my next one's going to be Mansfield Park, because that is the next long one. So if I can get that out the way, then at least the ones on my Kindle are more palatable lengths of Jane Austen. So yeah, I gave Emma 3 stars, and one I'm glad I've read, but again probably won't be revisiting. If you watched October, you know I didn't get to a Bridgerton, so there had to be 2 this month. So the next book is Bridgerton number 8, Gregory's Story on the Way to the Wedding, which again is by Julia Quinn. I gave this one 3.5 stars, which is pretty much what I've given all the Bridgerton books, bar the 2. This one could possibly be a 3. I might be being generous giving it a 3.5, because through a lot of it I did think it was a bit bland and a little bit nothingy and a bit, you know, yeah, I know they go to parties and they chat kind of thing, but the ending of this went a bit nutty, and that was why it got the 0.5. I can't really explain why or how it happens, but just expect the ending to be not like the rest of the book. So as I say, this is Gregory's story. He is at the Bridgerton family home in the country. Can't remember what it's called. It's probably Bridgerton House, knowing the way this goes. No, Aubrey Hall. There we go. So he's there. He sees a woman who he falls in love with instantly, just from the back of her head, and then ends up basically talking to that woman's best friend through most of it. Because Hermione is the one he falls in love with, isn't interested. And then obviously through the book and through getting to know our female main character Lucy, he ends up realising that he actually loves her. I enjoyed Lucy in this one. I quite liked her character. She's very organised, regimented. It's not something we've really seen from any of the other characters, although it might be and I've just blanked it, but I don't feel like we've seen that kind of verging on OCD perhaps in one of the Bridgerton characters. And I thought Gregory was one of the better male main characters. I feel like she's realised as she's gone through these that maybe she needs to make them slightly less idiotic and red flag, so he's one of the slightly better ones in this, even if he does fall for a best friend and then switches completely. However, where are all the other Bridgertons in this book? We don't get a lot of them in this, and I missed it. I like it when they're together and there's that Bridgerton banter and that kind of thing. We get a very brief interlude from Kate, a little bit from Anthony, I think like 2 scenes with his mum, and then a very small part with Hyacinth, and that's it. Where are the rest of them? We like the Bridgertons, we want them together. And again, at first, there's mentions of LGBT in this book, which again I don't think we've had in any of the other Bridgertons, so it was obviously a thing that was going to happen in that time frame, but we haven't had it mentioned until this book, which is number 8, as I said. Lastly, the person that the original woman that he falls in love with, the, you know, best looking woman ever, she's called Hermione Watson, and that really irked me for obvious reasons, because Hermione, Emma Watson, it felt like Julia Quinn could have been a bit more creative with that. I'm pretty sure this came out after those and after the films, because these are 2000s, aren't they? First published in 2001. So possibly, but it felt a bit on the nose for me. So yeah, that is Bridgerton number 8. We have one more to go, and then we've done the whole series this year. So yeah, let's do it. So that is On the Way to the Wedding, awful title by the way, by Julia Quinn. And the last book that I read, I actually finished it on like the 1st of December, but I'm counting it to November, is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore. And again, I gave this one 4 stars. So this is back in Dream Harbour, where the first book is the first book is the Pumpkin Spiced Cafe, but in this one we are with Hazel, who runs the bookstore, and Noah is the fisherman who is obsessed with her, and she finds these like clues in her. Basically someone defaces some books, leaving what she thinks is like clues in a scavenger hunt, and she ropes in Noah to help her follow them because she wants to have a bit more fun and be a bit reckless in the last 2 months before she turns 30. I enjoyed that sort of scavenger hunt aspect of it. I think they could have made more of it, but what was there I liked. Noah and Hazel, I liked them as characters. I've written reasonable main characters. I didn't like absolutely adore them and want them to like wish them all the happiness in the world, but also I didn't dislike them and want them to be miserable. So they were very sort of even characters for me, and I feel like there was far too much miscommunication in this, although again I do feel like it did fit in with the personalities of our characters. For that miscommunication to be there, it just got a little bit frustrating and a little bit much by the end of the book. One of the reasons this one isn't as good as the first is because we don't get as much of Dream Harbour as a place. So in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, because she's new to town, she's meeting everybody, she's learning all about the different aspects of town, whereas Hazel's been here for a long time, so we don't really get any of that. It is just really Hazel and Noah. And I like it better when there's more people to it. I think you've probably gathered that's part of my reading taste. I like it when there's that sort of group of friends, or the town is actually a character, that kind of thing, and I feel that was lacking slightly in this one. I would say, despite the fact that this is looking very autumn and, you know, I don't know, cinnamon buns to me sound autumny, I would say this is more of a summer read than an autumn read. So if you prefer to have them sort of more seasonally, this is largely set in August, although it's not like scorching hot, it is more summery than it is autumny. It is also vastly more spicy than the first one. These two don't seem to be able to be with each other without items of clothing being removed. So if you're not into that and you prefer closed door, this one in the series probably won't be for you. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I've got one more on my shelf which I'm hoping to get to in December because it's Christmas trees. So yeah, that is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Laurie Gilmore, and that is my November reading, which I actually feel was pretty decent. Possibly got my favourite book of the year. None of them I have actively disliked. I mean, some of them I've liked less than others. But yeah, I feel like it was a pretty good November reading month, to be honest. So as I said, we're into December. I have various plans, hopes. I don't know whether I'm actually going to get it all read. Plus I have a library hold of Heavenly Bodies, which is like a 600-page romantasy, I think, that has come in, and I need to try and fit that in as well. But come back beginning of January to find out what I read in December. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!